Good morning. This is Things You Might Have Heard, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne. I'm glad to have you here with us for the ride today. We have 8 stories queued up for you as normal for a Tuesday. And this Tuesday, the 6th of May, we're going to give you a whole bunch of Donald Trump. We have a lot of Donald Trump today. And also in that mix, along with Donald Trump, is some Haliey Welch and some Temu. These are kind of the things you might have heard of, things that sort of annoy me, but we'll get into bigger detail with the Trump stuff because it really does a longer message that if you're not used to me, you're going to understand exactly how I feel about this guy by the time we're done his 4 stories today. Now, let me remind you 3 things off the bat for those who will stick around, who I don't scare off with my Trump stuff. The website for our program here is called thisisaconversationproject.com. You find more about what we do all day long, how we do it, and the more thought process behind this. This is not a truly political thing. This is really news and information. But I just sort of have a bug up my butt about Donald Trump today, apparently. That's there. Our sponsor today is Flowers Fast. Go to our website, click our affiliate link at thisisaconversationproject.com/flowersfast. You save this link in your back pocket when you need to get flowers to you fast. This is an affiliate, so I get a small commission for you using this one. And our website, or our email address, I should say, for commenting on anything that comes up, good, bad, and different, the conversation inbox at gmail.com, where you can talk to me at any time about anything going forward. Now, the stories you have here are curated by you using a very simple algorithm. Literally, you go and click on a link and tell me that it's willing to talk about it. It's there. We'll explain about the feeds where you can see the links going forward, explain about how we co-opt you to help us pick our stories all going forward. But these are 8 stories that were deemed conversation by you. Now, we'll talk a bit, we'll go off script at the end about a story that I've got a lot of talk about. People have shot at me, but we haven't really had it in the queue to talk about. I think I'm going to do a special report on that, on hot take today or tomorrow when I have time to film that one. And this is one that's getting a lot of people there. And I don't want to go into the black stuff, which is why I've been kind of avoiding it. But it also hadn't garnered much attention until after we talked about it, after we put it in the feeds about a week or so ago. But let's get into the stuff that's going on right now. These are things that were conversational yesterday, things you deemed as willing to chat up, and a lot of things that Trump did in the past couple of days that are really catching people's attention. This is Tuesday, May the 6th, 2025. Oh, just in case you needed to know that one for prosperity and points. We're starting off with one thing that was announced yesterday, which seems like it contradicted what Trump's been saying. Trump's been willing to spend much money and do many things to deport as many folks as possible and sort of give up on the self-deportation thing. Said it's there, but we're going to find you and we'll send you anyway. Now the administration is offering up $1,000 to undocumented immigrants who will voluntarily leave. So if you're an immigrant here, undocumented, and you want to self-deport yourself again, there's an incentive to do that before ICE comes looking for you. $1,000 in travel assistance to voluntarily leave the United States. It was announced literally yesterday, as part of a lot of things announced literally yesterday that weren't probably well thought out, but well, it's a broad part of the strategy for administration to expedite its mass deportations and probably get itself out of some of the issues they're having with the courts and maybe reduce the associated costs. Now, sending people to prisons in El Salvador basically costs about to $20,000 a person, which is bad. And it also would mean having to stay in a gang or something like that. But it might be a little cheaper, easier to just assist them on their way out the door, buy them a plane ticket and give them $1,000 for spending money. Maybe that works out. The CBP is going to redo its CBP app, home app, and rebrand it as CBP One because rebranding, and just go forward and have people go back to self-deport or hit the intend to depart again in the app. They do all the work. They do all the talking back and forth. They talk to people illegally because they're going to go back on their own. And they get $1,000 once confirmed, a stipend, and of course, basically a bus ticket, plane ticket back to where they go to, covering the cost of going back somewhere. Now, it seems like a good idea. There's an active engagement for people who are demonstrating progress in basically leaving the U.S. Essentially, they came here, they didn't find what they're looking for, and they're willing to go back home and do whatever. People who aren't here seeking asylum, people who aren't here escaping some sort of war-torn issue, which would be there. But if you're willing to go back to where you came from or someplace else, It is there. Now, the processing cost for a person, just in general, DHS says about $17,000 per individual to process someone in the whole process. And doing this is essentially going to cut that cost by a whole bunch and get them out of the states pretty quickly. It also adds all bits and pieces that you get before. Implications and criticisms are reentry bans. Those bans that mean you leave, you come back for 10 years. A lack of clear reentry pathways. Maybe you want to come back and you don't have a right pathway because of that 10-year ban. And is it ethical? Is it legal? Is it good? Now, right now, the U.S., us, are negotiating with other places to deport people, whether criminal or not. Rwanda is a big place going forward. And Rwanda, which Donald Trump has called one of those S-hole countries in the past, and maybe part of the reason why they're sending them because they want to send them someplace that pretty much sucks. Other Western nations are also looking into this as well to see if they can get in on this deal because, like I said, El Salvador is getting about $20,000 per head for all the prisoners we're sending them down there per year. And that's in the first couple of months going forward. It's a big deal and a very, very, very big money gainer for sending folks out of town. But will it actually work? We'll find out soon enough, I guess. Also dropping yesterday, Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz. Why? Well, the plan is to expand on the Alcatraz Federal Prison Penitentiary, which has been shut down for 60 years because they couldn't come up with the $3 million 60 years ago to keep it running. And so 60 years later, I guess he saw the rock or something. We're going to open it back up. This happened with a Truth Social post, as most things do, directing the Bureau of Prisons, Department of Justice, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security to reopen it, then conceptually enlarge and rebuild Alcatraz and house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Because I guess he saw Captain America and saw the raft and was like, yo, we need to do that right there. Send these guys to something like that one. And they said, sir, we can't do that because it doesn't exist and the technology is actually movies. Well, what do we have out there? Well, sir, we have Alcatraz, but it really isn't feasible. Let's open up Alcatraz. It was a federal prison operated from 1934 to 1963, closed due to high operational costs and deterioration infrastructure. Essentially, building a big max security prison on an island, which looks great, isn't really easy to set up. And since then, it's been a national park and historical site where many people actually visit in the millions annually. It's a moneymaker for people who want to see Alcatraz, and it's going to become a lost leader, but we want to put all the bad guys there because Trump thinks Al Capone is out there someplace. Should be there. Maybe Diddy should be there. Maybe Mangione should be there. Maybe Harvey Weinstein should be there. Maybe that's what's going to bring people there, and they become the museum pieces. I don't know. Trump's proposal was met with skepticism and criticism from basically everybody. Critics basically said the plan is impractical due to the cost, restoring the facility to something that's even worthy of using, and hundreds of $1 millions that they don't have, logistics issues of having a prison on an island with no national water resources to begin with. And the symbolic implications that the move is a political gesture to project the tough on crime image, but actually not actually do anything that actually works on solving crime or doing crime or, deterring crime. It's just turn a museum into a prison because it's cool. No concrete plans, no timelines, no actual infrastructure to put in place. Only a Truth Social post saying, do this thing, all the people that work for me, because it popped in my head. Oh, what else did Trump say yesterday? 100% tariffs on all foreign movies. What does that mean? No one really knows what that means, which is part of the problem. And the bulk of having this being any sort of solution. Now, we know that Trump throws things out there as negotiation tactics. Yes, and just sort of speaks as he thinks. But this is something that actually came out on Sunday, coming into Monday. So we had some more time to kind of deal with this one. But Trump wants 100% tariffs on all movies produced outside the United States, citing concerns over national security and decline of the American film industry, because you can put wokeness in a movie outside of U.S. or something. I don't know. The foreign incentives that are basically put on the American filmmakers in other countries have a concerted effort by other nations and national security threat to basically pull people out of there to work on things. Now, many people here in the United States came up with, the ideas that, we usually use. Tax incentives for people working on things, being very amenable to things going on. That's why, even though Hollywood, his real point was Hollywood was dying very fast, There are various places around the nation here in Louisiana. Atlanta is now more the biggest place where movies are made here in the United States. Texas, of course, gets a lot of credits there. Nevada gets a lot of credits just because of the weather and the way things work. Because it's an industry. Now, we all know our biggest real fight is places like the UK, because they do speak British over there. In fact, basically all of the last Batman movie was filmed in the UK because Gotham City has a Gothic look that ain't here in the States. And so they use a lot of buildings, and that's so looking at old London there as well. Toronto, Canada, Ontario, where basically all of the Hallmark movies are filmed, and basically they spend Christmas, they spend July, 5-6 weeks in July with fake snow doing Christmas movies for Hallmark in the summertime. So we have plenty of them in the wintertime. They're there as well, and we might not think of them as a major importer of movies, but it's a movie. It's a TV movie, but it's made outside of the States and becomes an issue. And a lot of people do this. A lot of TV shows made in Canada, made in Ontario because of the incentives and things like that. And it looks just like the U.S. It looks like any basic Western nation. Industry experts question the feasibility of implementing such a tariff. Like, how do you actually charge this tariffs to people? The complex nature of modern film production. What the tariffs on the car parts? Basically, if it shows up someplace and comes in on a ship, on a barter point, you add money to it. It's that simple. If we film the next Dune movie, which there'll be 12 more because they keep making it, somewhere in Algeria, basically when the movie shows up, we put a tariff on it. No one really understands how this works. No one really knows what's going on in Trump's head. But it's another way for us to make many, many, many monies, and many, many ways to make America great again, make Hollywood great again, other than going back to the talkies and the silent film days and black and white movies, which maybe when America was great in his mind. Who knows? Financial markets did not like this. The movie people did not like this. And the markets moved pretty badly yesterday going forward with this one. Now, just to be fair, most of the losses since the beginning of the year when Donald Trump took over as the president, and of course, Liberation Day, which had a lot of losses from that day of the tariffs being announced on everybody, even the penguins, have been regained to some semblance of point. So basically, all the major losses have been regained. Your stocks may have not rebounded exactly the way they should be, but they've come back to some point, and all the losses from those things are more or less taken care of. Other things have been factored into your losses in the market. White House not clarifying the final decision on when they're going to put this on here, how they're going to make it happen. But spokesperson Kush Desai stated that the administration is, quote, exploring all options, unquote, to fill the president's directive while safeguarding national economic security. Because the Barbie film mostly outside the United States is a national security risk, or was, I guess. Although it was the biggest thing of the year. It was a couple summers back. So there you go. And it brought us the Ken stuff, which is awesome. Now I'm rambling. Let's get to the fourth story, the fourth Trump story. Yeah, the whole first half of the stories above the fold are all Trump things. This is something that is technically a good thing, but it also highlights the bad thing that we make a decision and then Trump punts on it over and over again because he thinks he can fix it and it's not being fixed. The temporary ban, or the temporary relief from the ban of TikTok, continues. Another extension. We talked about this before, but now it's basically official. Trump puts the official pushing back the goalpost. And so now the football field is about 300 and 400 yards or something like that, because there is no sale for TikTok. He announced that the extension of the deadline for TikTok's divestiture is going on because 170 million U.S. users use it. And every time it gets close to the deadline, we get more commercials about people using TikTok to build their companies, which is a valid thing. The biggest issue is China. China doesn't like us. China doesn't have to like us, and China doesn't want to sell TikTok. They don't necessarily have to. In fact, they're willing to let it go dark and do something else and let us sign up for other apps made by China, which are even worse, because they don't want to sell TikTok. TikTok is intellectual property. TikTok is not just the videos. It's actually the data that is in there. And with all the wrap up they have, with all the songs, all the videos on the music, it basically is their backdoor into any sort of issue for intellectual property, because all the people want people on TikTok and all the people want to use their stuff to get that promotion. So you have the right to use at least seconds of everything on TikTok going forward. ByteDance, the Chinese owner of the company who operates this in the United States, it's one thing that is operated here in the United States, is actually really not all interesting and diversity and stuff like this. In fact, it should have been sold before Trump came into office. Trump basically said we're going to extend it, which he had the right to do going forward. And this is the third extension, I think, going forward for the sale of TikTok. Many have stepped up to the game. Many big names have stepped to the game. Few have actually got less than laughs from China because they don't want to sell it. They know this is a sticking point. And as long as they can hold this up to the face of us, US, and Donald Trump, they will do that. Meanwhile, Trump, it was told that TikTok helped him get elected, so he wants to save it. And he keeps trying to let it get saved. The big issue is ByteDance doesn't want to save it. ByteDance doesn't care. The warm spot for TikTok that Trump has, indicating that the war to consider some more extensions going forward if deals not finalized, is great. The big issue is, the actuality is, maybe China is tapping Trump along and TikTok in the future. Now, the folks who work here in the TikTok in the States would love TikTok to expand going forward. They'd love to just keep on working what's going on. But the big issue is Chinese Communist Party, which we'll say in this way because it is, owns ByteDance and which owns TikTok operations even here in the United States. So in theory, because the way they work, China could say, give us all the data from TikTok. And ByteDance could, in theory, say, okay, hand them a thumb drive and go forward. It's literally the same things we were worried about Doge doing inside the government, walking around getting documents, information. But people don't quite understand that, or they don't care because they can't see the comparisons. Now, whether they can legally do that or not, there are issues on whether that's possible. But because we don't know and we don't trust the Chinese Communist Party, we are worried about it. That's why this whole TikTok thing is an issue. What will happen if the U.S. does not find a way to get someone to buy TikTok? We'll push the can down further. We'll push the gold packs even further. We'll keep extending it until China decides to call our bluff. This is a point of time where we ask you to like, share, and subscribe to the work. Now, I have to be a bit honest here. We're going to just go a little longer than normal. This may not be the most exciting, the most splendiferous version of our show here. It's kind of hard to put things together, although there were so many Trump things today that it seemed like we could have did 8 stories that was all Donald Trump, and it was hard to just kind of fight them down there. The next 4, one is Trump adjacent. The other ones are all just sort of things that happen that are not so great, really, really sort of minor, but we do things here for the Conversation Project, for things you might have heard. These are stories that you deem as conversational, not just all the main headline stuff. And because we don't do sort of a walking, talking daily news update on things, it's hard for us to put these smaller pieces into larger things. It was the reason why it was hard to really talk about the Trump interview he had with Kristen Welker, because the mainstream media pulled each little nugget and turned it into a story over the course of Sunday and Monday, when we just said, there's an interview. We focused on the whole Constitution thing, and other things sort of sprinkled around. There's so many things that he poked around on. It was just amazing. But here, we need your help. Here, we need you to help us grow our work here. We are at about 2,030 subscribers on YouTube. That's our main metric we use for going forward. It's about 2,030, so I can't look at my monitor here because glasses aren't on. But we're looking to gain that. We hit 2,000 subscribers about a month and a half ago, and so we're on a steady growth if you want to. But we're looking to double that as for this year. So at this calendar year, we want to get on path to double that, and so we're hoping to do that. That simply means you need to subscribe to the YouTube page, or subscribe to X or Facebook as well, because that's where you're seeing this video right here. If you're enjoying what you're seeing right here and it's not coming natively in your feed, subscribe so you get it all the time. So when you see the notification, we're there for you. Now, if you enjoy what you're seeing and you like this particular video or want more people to see it, like it. It tells me I picked the right news stories. Maybe you're a Trump lover, a Trump fan, a big MAGA head, and you really did not like things going forward. You want to hate like it. That's fine as well. But if you're enjoying the coverage that we're giving you, we want you to like it so that I know I have good coverage and good commentary. Don't dislike it. It doesn't fix anything. It also shows the algorithm that this is worthy of people seeing. This is worthy of people watching. And so it will share it with more people on all the platforms we're on. Share it directly with people that you know might enjoy or might also watch the stuff going forward, because hate likes aren't so bad. Sometimes it's the stuff that you watch just because you really want to get that guy to get on your nerves that makes a difference. And I have plenty of those things in my feeds as well. Of course, as I said, subscribe so we come in your feed natively as we come live. This goes live to you every single weekday morning, hopefully until StreamYard has some other glitch going forward. About 5:30 in the morning, so you get your good start and go forward with that one. You can get a chance to get a good jump on the news for yesterday going forward, learn something, and maybe find something you didn't know about with us here. Get that notification coming to you, or just watch it whenever you want to in the replays as you commit to it. It's all good. The next stories don't so much focus on Donald Trump, but there are some adjacent things going forward. This one in particular, it's Pete Hegseth, and he and his Pentagon staff wants to cut the 4-star general staff and admirals. A new order by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is going to significantly reduce the U.S. military's top leadership, restructuring with a mandated 20% reduction in active duty 4-star generals and admirals. It's called Less Generals, More GIs. And initiative aims to streamline command structures and enhance operation efficiency. It's not necessarily a bad idea, but it really wants to put the roles of things going on with people in the field, the boots on the ground, if you will, by saying there's way too much overhead, way too many generals in the top half, which is actually a way for Trump to have less generals, to be on TV when they're done doing Army stuff and Navy stuff. That's basically what it is. The target is 20% cut in 4-star officers and a 10% reduction in all generals and flag officer ranks, and 20% decrease in National Guard general officers. It literally is going to cut out the big bosses in these ranks. The reductions will occur in 2 phases. First, focus on immediate cuts for top-ranking officers, basically folks that are retiring, not being refilled, and folks that are just not making the next step, getting rid of them. What will actually happen is a potential consolidation of commands like U.S., European, and American commands together, so that if you don't have 2 commands, you don't need 2 generals, you have 1 general, 1 command. Although Europe and Africa, 2 very big places, you might want 2 different guys running that. The highlight of this is the proportionate growth of high-ranking officers compared to enlisted personnel since World War II. He noted that during World War II, 17 4- and 5-star generals commanded 12 million troops, whereas 44 4-star generals command 2.1 million troops. So the numbers are a bit squirrely. There are more generals, obviously, and there are less troops. But this is going to be played out how it's going to. Proponents argue that the cuts will reduce bureaucracy and reallocate resources to frontline forces, which is great. Critics say that the reduction is politically motivated and could undermine military effectiveness. Essentially, we don't like the generals. We want to get rid of them. That's the reason behind it. Not really the effectiveness is, it might work out, but, we don't like these folks. So we're going to get rid of them. And it consolidates power. And when we take over the world and we do some sort of military coup, we have less people who can say no. Those are my words, but those aren't words that are foreign to many people going forward. A new study finds that companies prioritize vibes, feelings, if you will, over skills in hiring decisions. This coming from Textio, revealing that many companies are using their prioritizing and just focusing on the vibes, the gut instincts, the subjective impressions over objective skills and assessments that people actually do when hiring people to work. Research and analyzed feedback from over 10,000 interviews and found that hiring managers often focus on personality traits such as likability and charisma over, the things that are listed on the resume. Do they have all the boxes ticked? Maybe not, but he seems like a nice guy, and it's my frat brother, or this person really needs a shot, or I really enjoy and feel that this person could use this to go forward. The big trend, which hiring calls essentially the culture fit effect, suggests that employers want to favor candidates who align with their team's existing dynamics. They fit in, their team players. They feel like they're already members of the family, as opposed to they have this one skill that they're lacking and they could use more of. Because, maybe they'll pick up that skill, but as long as they don't, rock the boat in the process of saying, hey, we need to do more of the stuff, that's what we're going for. Team cohesion is what they're looking for, but it raises concerns about biases, that DEI thing, of course, and overlooking qualified candidates who might not immediately resonate on a personal level. They may have all the tools they need to actually get things done and actually can get things done, but they're not all that nice coming forward. You have to actually meet them and hang out with them and find out that they don't actually like grape jelly in their donuts, and it becomes an issue on Jelly Donut Day because they want strawberry. Rocking the boat. Contrastingly, growing movement advocating for skills-based hiring practices, the killing of the DEI stuff, and basically everyone's based on merit. So with that, there's a clashing. In private sectors, you can hire for whoever you want to, as long as you're not necessarily discriminating. You can hire if your standard is people that are stupid. This is what I learned in my business law class 30 years ago. If I like hiring people who are dumb and enough dumb people show up and I hire them, I can't get sued for discrimination for not hiring a minority or a woman who is super qualified for the job, because one of my key tenets of the job is I like dumb people. There have been rules and laws in sort of cases that have sort of maybe blurred those lines, but it stands the way it is. If you hire somebody for a culture fit, that's not necessarily discrimination because they fit, they won't rock the boat. But in reality, if you hire someone because they are not of a certain type or they are of a certain type, and you can prove that it's not because they fit well here, it's because the other guy is black, brown, women, whatever, that's where things can become issues. Soft skills like communication and teamwork are undeniably valuable. They're great and they are an overemphasis in some cases to get into a job. You want to make sure you can play the cards properly for the politics and the work you're working inside the business and with the people you work with. But the problem is when you hire your uncle's nephew because he's your uncle's nephew and he could use the break, and you find out that he can't get the job done and everyone that has to work with him is suffering for that, it becomes an issue. Competency should actually be a part of the process. And, culture fit should be there as well to a point. But at some point in time, if you want to win, you're going to hire on the players that are going to help you win. You're going to get that bad guy that makes everybody upset in the locker room to win that championship title right now, because that's what you do. Temu is halting its U.S. shipments after the end of the tariff exemption for Chinese imports. De minimis. This is the e-commerce platform Temu's their nemesis right now. The ultra low cost goods provider is seizing direct shipments to the U.S. from China because of the expiration of de minimis. This is a tariff exemption that was gone as the second. This was enacted by Donald Trump when he put all tariffs on everything. And what happened with de minimis, so all packages under $800 are now subject to tariffs as high as 145% because they're coming from China. All Chinese tariffs, all Chinese goods, 145%. Up until now, everything under $800 was basically came in duty free, no issues. So whatever tariffs we had on them, that's why they were so cheap. Now that everything under $100 is 145% more, Temu is just basically saying they're not going to deal with it. They're going to do local fulfillments, only offering products stored in U.S. warehouses. So once they get here, they can deal with it. So basically, they're working off things that are stored here now, not direct from China stuff, not new stuff, not the cheaper stuff, because it costs $1.50 more for each one. They state that the pricing for U.S. consumers remain unchanged. Basically, everything that's here, no reason to raise the price. It's the Chinese consumers, Chinese goods coming in that are issues. And for other nations, they're still just as cheap because they don't have these serious tariff issues. But for right now, de minimis and bringing things in from China has killed part of the business for Temu and may do the same for other of the low-cost distributors that come in from the States as well. If you're not so much a fan of that one, remember, you voted for this. Tariffs are a beautiful thing, and 145% on China is a beautiful thing, apparently. But now you're starting to see them roosters coming home to roost. Eggs coming home to roost, whatever, the effects are happening. And while I didn't want to talk about this person at all, you guys kind of wanted to talk about her, but in her demise. So we're throwing our kicker out to Haliey Welch, the widely recognized Hawk Tuah girl. We're not even going back to that one, but she has announced that she has a career rebrand following the controversy surrounding her cryptocurrency venture. Now, of course, coming to our natural conscience on a really dumb, silly TikTok video that turned into a thing, that turned into a thing, that turned into a thing, that turned into merch and a podcast and becoming famous, and then turned into basically the implosion when we realized there really wasn't much behind the girl. She really was just some girl, some young woman who, maybe really pleasant and nice in her own sense, but didn't have the star power to push things. But had enough star power, had enough fans, and had the backing of Howie Mandel's nephew or something to put out something called Hawk, $Hawk, Hawk coin, a meme coin, which remember is crypto and can make a lot of money for people who sell it really quickly with no actual value. And the rapid decline of value and the fact that her fans lost bunches of money from the pump and dump scheme that it actually was caused her to disappear, go away, maybe forever. Not quite, because that sweet, sweet money that comes from being a influencer personality person is too hard to back off. So she relaunched her Talk Tuah podcast under her own company, 16 Minutes, ending her previous partnership with Better Holdings, basically focusing things on herself. She has taken a 3-month hiatus from everything public life and being able to focus on her mental health. Nice work if you get it. The renewed focus on career and more cautious approach to business ventures is what's going to be done by 16 Minutes, because she's overextended her fame that 15 minutes going forward. She's set to make a cameo appearance in the new Hulu series Chad Powers, stars Glenn Powell. She also is in a documentary called Doc Tuah, produced by Bungalow Media Plus Entertainment, to chronicle her rise to internet fame and subsequent endeavors. Not quite fall, because she's still here. Unfortunately, she's still here. The rebranding effort significantly will show the shift towards sustainability and a diversified career, and not just money grabs and taking a big on viral fame right now. Whether she can prove she's worthy of that work, we shall see. Remember how she started. Now, that's not necessarily a knock to remember how she started. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because many people come up in the randomest things, become fairly well adjusted, fairly beloved members of our society in our entertainment business. And some people just sort of don't know how to go away and keep playing that trick over and over again. And sometimes the media, that's us, we are the problem, just need someone to talk about. And we pull them up out of our Rolodexes, if those still exist, every so often, just because we need someone to throw dirt at. That seems to be Hawk Tour Girl's thing right now. Whether she can rebrand herself as someone of a more serious podcaster, journalist, entertainer, person, we shall see. As promised, 8 stories down, 8 stories that were kind of iffy today. I'll admit that. But we have those 8 stories there. Now, how these stories get here, as we said earlier, we talk about them all day long, or we let you talk about them all day long in our feeds on Facebook and X. These are 3 stories that are headlines that are going to come down fairly soon as we're producing this live, or maybe there by the time you watch this video later today. Ukraine drones attack Moscow, disrupt Victory Day planning in Russia. Also, the Trump administration says Harvard will receive no new grants until it meets the White House demands. This is an ongoing struggle with Harvard and other universities around the nation that are getting their grants pulled for federal stuff because they're not following anti-Semitic and DEI type things. And Kamala Harris makes a surprise and quiet debut at an appearance at the Met Gala. We did not talk Met Gala. We really couldn't put Met Gala stuff in there because it's basically, look at all these people in the Met Gala. I saw a very interesting interview this morning on the sort of theme this year, which was Black Dandies. This is a style of dress that Black men had back in the early days, coming out of slavery, where they all wore the top hats and they all wore nice clothes. And it's something that went on there. And one of the ladies, who was basically a historian of the Met Gala and dandy fashion, said it missed the mark. It was more European dandiness and things that are offset things were there. And in fact, even though Andre 3000 showed up with a piano on his back, it didn't quite hit. I'm not a big fan of the Met Gala. It's basically stars and famous people and politicians just showing up to dress up for themselves, literally. But Kamala Harris, who we're not sure, we talked about yesterday, whether she's running for president, whether she's running for governor, maybe she'll go to the Vatican and be the Pope, showed up in a fairly subdued dress because she's got nothing better to do. Just in case you miss out on a moment, you need to get a gift to a client pretty quickly, or you really did something bad, terrible, horrible, wrong, and you need to get a mea culpa fast. I'm offering you this chance with Flowers Fast. Use our link for this great service. This is conversationproject.com/flowersfast. Why use our link? Well, because you like us and we get a small commission. 2, it's FTD florist at its best. You can get in an order in the early morning, and the network of FTD can bid a flower bouquet together that morning and send it to your loved one anywhere in the continental United States that same day. Same day flowers, pretty much just like that through the magic of the internet's FTD and Flowers Fast. And if you want something a bit more substantial, a bit more tasty, if you will, they have other gifts as well, including cookies, including the smoked meat stuff that you love. Those Oreos that are fudge covered, things like that, that for baby showers, for anniversaries, for celebrations or birthdays. And they have those things that come to you basically next day via FedEx because they take a little more time to pull off the shelf and wrap up and go. But if you need Flowers Fast, keep this one in your back pocket. This is conversationproject.com/flowersfast. This is conversationproject.com/flowersfast. Stunning floral arrangements delivered quickly and reliably for birthdays, anniversaries, or just to brighten someone's day, or in case you actually mess something up. Get beautiful bouquets, elegant arrangements, and thoughtful gift add-ons designed for you, by you, to bring smiles to loved ones with same-day delivery options in many cases for the flowers. Check it out at this. It's conversationproject.com/flowersfast. Our Conversation Project, a part of the More Better Medium Network, is here, and it lives online at this. It's conversationproject.com. What this is about is a way to talk news stories that are conversational in a chit chat. Now, I've had some talks in the last couple of days about possibly bringing in a co-host, if you will, possibly bringing in some more people, finding more ways to actually get more engagement that is conversational with me talking to people. And it's just sort of logistics and time and efforts. But if you want to get on this one and not just see what's happening out there because people are telling you what's important, follow us on our feeds and be a part of the background that's going on. Our website, of course, this is conversationproject.com. Our email address, the conversation inbox, gmail.com. But how the magic happens here for the conversation is pretty simple. Every 50 minutes or so, we post news articles to Facebook and X. Facebook.com/this is conversation project. X.com/th_conversation. What you get from them places is a chance to see all you can see and engage in news stories that we want you to tell us that are conversational. The reason why we have 4 stories that were Trump related were because you guys thought they were all conversational, and it was just kind of a what the hell day, let's just do 4 Trump stories. It just sort of worked out that way. But you let us know what stories are worthy of talking about. You get the first say in what's happening. We pick from those stories. Today we had 30 stories from Monday into Tuesday. We picked the top 15, 16 stories with top half engagement. And from there, pulled 8 stories to get into the feed for this thing, or the queue for this thing here today. That's how we had 8 stories a day. We do that Tuesday through Friday. On Monday, we have 10 stories from 90 stories, from 30, 45 stories. That happens as well. So you get a chance to first dibs to see what's going on. If you don't like the stories you picked, email me and let me know. Comment, let me know. Do going forward. We will take some of those stories and cut them up into hot takes and get deeper into detail. Some of the ones that we think will get the most response to, get comments going forward. And of course, we'll do hot takes on stories that may or may not hit these links because they're there. Now, we're going to talk about the lady, and the story behind it is a lady was at a playground and a young black child, a toddler, may have been 5 years old, probably younger, was essentially digging through the baby's bag of this woman. She dropped a bunch of racial slurs on him. A man who I think was Hispanic started recording the lady going back and forth as this was happening. From that, she got her a lot of love and support for essentially being racist, and of course has put out a GoFundMe, which was canceled, and another GoFundMe like one that has raised about $500,000 because she was racist. Many people I've had conversations about that with many folks. My beautiful wife, Christina McKay, was like, you're not talking about this one. We actually posted something on this one early in the debate before it raised a lot of money. And many people who are online commentators, much better than I have actually addressed this in ways that I've watched them that are so much better than I could. But we'll probably address this in a day or so. If I get a little chance to do some editing, and I'll have to actually do some actual effort in this one, get some videos, get some pieces, which is part of the issue. I don't like to, the edit stuff, just like to tell the story. So this will have to take some actual work. So we probably get in this one because this is a story that's not going away, apparently. And some people haven't quite heard the full details. So we'll bring it back again. Probably not for something like this because it's going to take way too long. It's way too distracting, and it gets in the way of my Trump derangement syndrome, to be honest. But we will deal with that in some way going forward. But in the meantime, we got to get on to Tuesday, the actual Tuesday, as it's only 6 a.m. here. I'm wrapping this thing up. So I have a Tuesday to live. Tuesday, May the 6th to be exact for 2025. Enjoy your day, and hope you enjoyed the day we had yesterday in news coverage from the past. And we'll enjoy the news coverage going forward if you follow us on our feeds on Facebook and on X and tell us what stories to get into, engage in them by just hitting the like button or replying to them or sharing with folks. The more an engagement story gets, literally, the more people touch it, better chance you have to talk about it in the 8 stories for tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll just have to see what happens because we'll see what's going on. I expect to be more energized, more bigoted, wrong word, more big energied, if you will, because a little bit of rest from a big weekend. And we'll have more diverse stories. We expect to. Or we may do 8 stories on Trump because Trump may do 8 things today that are worthy of talking about because it's about you and what you think is conversation. Love you. Mean it. Sorry for going so long today, but we're out of here. Let's have a great Tuesday. Enjoy yourself.